Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy Burst CG back here, and today we have big news on finding out that Kang actually will have some role in Ant-Man 3. Now, that is actually a pretty big surprise on a lot of people's ends, and honestly, I think that we should have expected something like that soon because there was a lot of time mishaps going on in the whole MCU with Endgame and even in Agents of Shield, if you really want to count that. But yeah, so I'm gonna try to go and give my thoughts on what I think about it, and also some thoughts on some other things. But I'll get into that later. But first, I kind of want to give a little overview for people who might not know exactly what about Kang, and this is kind of like the simplest bio I can give for you if you don't know anything about him, because even now in comics there's a lot of versions of Kang. But if you want to just know the simple backstory, basically he is a descendant of Reed. He's a scholar in the 31st century, roughly about 1,000 or so years ahead, so not anytime soon. He's definitely fascinated with time travel, which led him to create time technology that he could go back in time. And I believe the first thing he tried to do was go back in time to the Egyptian era and manipulate what was believed to be maybe the most powerful mutant at the time. And that's some other stuff that has to do with Celestials making mutants and stuff like that that I don't want to get into. But he basically wanted to manipulate him to kind of make him the next heir to the throne or something like that. It didn't work out because actually somehow the Fantastic Four actually came back in that era and stopped him, which time travel already mind-boggling right now. But yeah, so then he went back, and his intention was to go back to the 31st century. However, something went wrong, and he actually jumped way further than he intended to. Now, where this might seem like something went wrong, for him it actually went right. He was able to get a hold of technology that the people of that planet, Earth, in the future didn't really understand, and he was able to make use of it. And since he made use of it, he was able to make the iconic outfit that he has today in most of Marvel comics and in other universes where it might be slightly different, but for the most part I believe his outfit is mostly the same. But yeah, so he has that, and at some point I believe he faced off against the Avengers, and he lost, but the world and all that stuff knew his name at the time. But that it can get a little bit more crazy from there if I really dig deep into it. But just know that essentially he goes around and he conquers different worlds, in different time periods, I believe, and basically he makes more. He expands his territory basically. And I don't want to get into the whole council of Kangs, because there's also even a council of Reeds, if you want to think about that. But yeah, there's a lot of time travel mishaps that happen in that Marvel comics, and it's just a lot. But basically, yeah, that's a pretty small short story about him. If you want to read more, I definitely encourage it, but I can't really give you a good place to start just because there's so many different stories with him, and even now currently, and there's been stories before where stuff has to do with like Illuminati with Captain America and time loops and doing the same thing over and over, and it's a lot, like I said. But now that we know that, switching over to Ant-Man 3 stuff. So now that we know that apparently Jonathan, is it Majors has been apparently cast as Kang. My theory for that is that it's not really so much going to be about Kang in the movie, because there's potentially the possibility that the movie will feature MODOK, I believe. And MODOK, I believe that they listed off that all these different not castings, but nobody could use the character at the time. So while we do have MODOK in this game, Marvel's Avengers, nobody can really use him outside of that, I don't think, for anything in TV shows or anything, because it looks like they're getting ready to slot him up for Ant-Man 3, which makes sense. I mean, they definitely were going to bring back AIM at some point, and I think even now with this game coming out, it's definitely time to start getting people's mind back to thinking about AIM as a thing in the MCU, because it's still there. It never went away. We just got rid of Aldrich Killian and the whole fake Mandarin thing. So yeah, but my theory, this is the part that you should really be intrigued about. So basically, we have Loki, the series, coming out probably, hopefully, next year if they ever continue reshooting. I don't like shooting things. I don't really know if they're going to be able to do that anytime soon, or if they haven't really been keeping up with that part because, COVID and whatnot. But yeah, whenever they do get done shooting and the show does come out, I'm expecting a lot more time travel influence and Kang to be involved or referenced somehow. Mostly because they're going to be dealing with the Time Variance Authority, and like I said, that's a whole other thing if you want to look into it. But they're basically a group of people who monitor time travel incidents. And with Loki being somebody who apparently is going to be jumping through different eras and potentially manipulating different things in this side branch timeline, you can see where things might go bad. So they're definitely going to give him what looks to be in prison. I assume he's going to escape, and somewhere along the line, I'm expecting maybe a Kang reference or something of that nature, because there's just got to be something that they really heavily tease at the end of it that I don't think will be like really related to Thor. It'll be mostly related to this new stuff. But yeah, so diving deep into more of the Ant-Man 3. Now, I think it's going to be more of a post-credit scene, which is most likely. And people are saying that he shouldn't be in this type of movie. I mean, even if he wasn't, in here, I mean, I think it's good to just have him as a teaser of some sort, because we need to know what the next big bad of this ongoing phase is going to be. And I'd rather know now than be on the fence about it for the next, a year or two. So yeah, but basically, here's what I think. King is going to come back, and this is going to be the first post-credit scene, or it's either going to be the ending and post-credit scene mixed together. So the ending is going to have Kang pop up to the Avengers. I'm not sure if they're going to really have an new Avengers Tower or Avengers base or anything like that of operations, depending on where these other shows go. But he's going to pop up, and he's going to get all these different remaining Avengers that we do have. So like Rhodey and I guess Falcon and all this, other people like that were around, but maybe not directly involved with the time travel aspect. And he's going to blip them to the future, and they're going to be stuck in a Savage Land-esque type of place. And it's on an Earth, presumably it could be the Earth like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, where he's actually sending them to a more, destroyed, washed up Earth of some kind, and they have to figure out a way to survive there. And basically then the next scene picks up with Cassie Lang, and at this point she's older, so she has some, she's able to do a lot more, and she's probably already been working with getting the technology, or even Hank Pym will still be there, and Janet will still be there, so they could help her get the stature thing going on, and maybe some other characters get introduced that we don't really know of yet, and then we can get the young Avengers kind of start forming up. And the main thing going on for some of these movies might be what happened in the year, I believe it'll be like maybe 2024 or 2025, because they jumped 5 years, whatever, in the last few movies. They'll be trying to figure out what happened on that year and that day, and why they disappeared and never came back, and where they are. And people just think that maybe they died, or something happened and they're never coming back, but other people have a different idea, and somehow some things will happen, and it'll be a little bit more time travel stuff, which I'm not looking forward to, because time travel is just, in comics and in even TV shows, it can be a crazy thing, and it can be a really, really bad headache. But I'm hoping that they really do it well enough that we don't have to worry about that, because even then, I mean, I don't know if you guys watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but they really were able to give some interesting thought about the quantum realm, with it being you can go back and forth between branches and timelines, but then again, the ending of it makes it seem like it's not really the main MCU verse, because the Triskelion was there, so it doesn't really mesh well, and it makes kind of think. And also, they arrived as they left, if you think about it too, so it's kind of weird. If you've watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., basically, I'll give this quick summary again. Basically, they had an ending where it was kind of like a little loop, and they had to watch themselves doing events until they left to go back in time. So it was kind of weird, because a big prominent thing in that show was time travel, for like the last 2 seasons or something like that. and it was a lot of time loop stuff. So it kind of seems like they were still kind of in a loop, because when the Avengers came out on the, you know, time travel machine, they came back like in the moment. They didn't come back to see themselves leaving. It's kind of weird. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that and what I think that they'll kind of set up for it, because you got to understand the whole Young Avengers thing is already getting set up at some point, where we're gonna get, you know, Miss Marvel at some point. More Young Avengers characters might show up here and there. I don't know if we'll get a new Avengers. It's possible, but I definitely do see some time travel things being heavily influenced with this next upcoming phase, especially. I really do think that they might just send them to the future and they get stuck there. That could be a really big thing, and it could be a lot of things mixed with other stuff from like Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is also going to be a crazy thing. I'm expecting to see some wild stuff with these different multiverses, and maybe Kang gets involved there too. Who knows? But yeah, the last thing I want to talk about, it does not matter what race this character is. Let's just be honest here. I'm just going to throw it out there. It really doesn't matter. He is a descendant of Reed Richards. There's no clear indication of what happened in those 1,000+ years up to the 31st century. So you don't know. And yes, the character may be depicted as white, Asian, black, or whatever in the comic books. But I mean, at this point, you know, it honestly really doesn't matter. And if they really stick to, you know, what he looks like in the comic books, I mean, for the most part, he's just going to be blue. And I mean, are you still going to be complaining that a black guy is playing a blue character, or what? You know, that's just my personal thoughts on it. I don't think it really matters, you know, so probably should stop crying about it. But yeah, that is my thoughts on what I think about Ant-Man 3. The ending and the post-credit scene will kind of, you know, have in store for us. Now, that's just my theory. It could happen any kind of way. Anything else could happen. But I would hope that if anything could happen in that, they do whisk the remaining Avengers we have into the future, and they have to survive there and figure out maybe a potential way to get back or a potential way to survive. And it would be an interesting way to, you know, introduce the Savage Land, because it's a place on Earth, so I don't know why they haven't shown it. You know, it honestly boggles my mind that it hasn't been introduced yet, but this is a good time to introduce it, so why not? But anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What do you think about the plot? What do you think about what the movie will end up being, and what it will hold for the future of the MCU? If they'll do a reboot or something at some point with this whole time travel mumbo jumbo, or even other stuff. But yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.